Welcome to the third and final episode of Aliens Are Real, and I Can Prove It. If you do not believe by the end of this episode, after watching the other two, the aliens are real, well then, I guess, with you, I have failed. I've given, after this episode, this is all the proof that I really have, or the best proof that I have. And I think this episode is the best one yet when it comes to proof. I think this episode has the most compelling kind of I don't know, the others are more of people testimony and everything. On this one I have physical evidence and certain situations where there's no other explanation possible besides aliens. The first thing I want to do is say that there is many cave paintings all across the world with aliens in it, aliens doing different things, and I'm going to show a bunch right now. Yeah, so those are across multiple different civilizations, which the ancient civilizations, one's here and the other's across the river. They're never going to meet each other. These all started drawing these, at different times, at different ways, like different kind of species, and you can clearly tell that those are not human species at all. But the reason ancient aliens, I think the evidence for it is so compelling, is because there's no other explanation possible. There are many different structures that were made by the ancient civilizations that science today has no they can't think of a single way that would be possible. One of those being there are 2.3 million blocks in the pyramids in Egypt. And, that was made across 20 years. So if you use, when you think about it, that means that one block has to be put down every 5 minutes, 24 hours a day, for 20 years for the pyramids to be possible. The problem with that is that each individual block weighs around 2 tons. Yes, each individual block weighs 2,000 pounds, and there are 2.3 million of those. Each of that being one of those being put down every 5 minutes, 24 hours a day. So no sleep is in this for 20 years for the pyramids to get there. Scientists and historians are speculating that would be completely impossible because no one knows how they got the blocks up there to begin with. From what we understand, it should be impossible for them to have gotten those blocks at all, let alone one every 5 minutes. It just makes no sense at all. And it should be impossible. But we know it's not impossible because we can go to Egypt right now, look out, and see them. We know that somehow the Egyptians actually did build these pyramids. We just have no idea how. We know that it should be absolutely impossible because if something weighs that much, those blocks, it makes no sense for them to be able to get there, one of them every 5 minutes, day and night, no breaks, for 20 years. It's impossible, but somehow isn't, since they're clearly there, unless maybe someone else was involved, like aliens, for example. And there are a lot of alien evidence across the hieroglyphics and everything that Egyptians made, documenting aliens. There's there's a lot of proof that aliens were part of the Egyptian society back then. And considering there's no possible way of them building the pyramids, it only makes sense, that aliens maybe did. Especially when you think about the fact that the pyramids are not the only, structure that stories and science has no explanation for. There are those all over, other civilizations. And it's just when you think about all of those that there should be no way to explain, that are somehow there, the only evidence that you can give at all are aliens. And it's just it's just insane because there's no other possible reason. You kind of are forced to believe that aliens are the only ones that could have done this, especially this is not even counting like all the evidence that they're there with the paintings and everything. Even without those, it's hard to like dismiss that. But when you have the paintings, it's impossible not to like arrive at this conclusion. Another like reason to believe is that not only do some civilizations have structures that are absolutely impossible for them to have, there are also like civilizations that have knowledge that is actually impossible for them to have. One of those is the Dogon people. The Dogon people knew a lot of stuff that they shouldn't have known. They knew that the planets rotate around the sun. They knew about moons like Sirius B that we found out through like ridiculous mathematical equations and like high power telescopes, which obviously ancient civilizations did not have. That's how we found out about Sirius B, but they had already had extensive like knowledge about Sirius B. Not only that, but they knew just like facts about the planet, like planets and everything that we got to because of like extensive mathematics and like high power telescopes and everything like that. They knew about Saturn's ring, which if you look into the sky at night right now and see Saturn, you are not going to see the ring around it unless you are in space or looking through a very high power telescope. I mean, some people speculate that possibly they could have known about this through like ridiculous eyesight and like super clear nights, with this like the ring around Saturn and everything. But no one has any idea how they could have possibly known about Sirius B. The only like logical thing you can like speculate is that aliens told them about all this stuff, because it doesn't make any sense at all for them to have known about it. And that's crazy to think about, these ancient civilizations knowing information that took us forever to get to, and like so much like science and math and stuff they would have no idea of knowing. Just find all this out. Like, it doesn't make any like it's completely impossible for them to know this, and yet they do, and they did, and we know they did. And it's just crazy. It's kind of hard not to like accept that it was aliens that told them about this, because it is like the only it's the only conclusion I can think of to even arrive to, because the top minds of the world have tried to find out how they did it and failed. Like, they failed to come up with how they could have possibly known this. And I mean, it makes sense, because there is no way they could have possibly known this unless someone told them. And it only makes sense that it was aliens. Also, not only do we have the cave paintings and all that, we also have found elongated skulls like all across the world. Now, this one actually does have like a different explanation, unlike the other stuff that has like no other explanation than aliens. This one actually like has like, they could have possibly been like shamans who have like modded their head over time to appear huge, because back then people believed the bigger the head, the smarter you were. I mean, there are a few problems with that, like the logistics of that. I'm gonna show y'all a picture like of these skulls at like the end. But anyway, yeah, they found these skulls all across the earth, which some people believe is evidence of aliens. Some people believe that it's like which I believe this probably makes more sense. That the shamans are modding their head on this one. But I felt like I had to include it just to like realize how much historical evidence there really is about aliens, with all the paintings and everything. The impossibleness of many structures that we know for a fact were built by ancient civilizations, and the impossible knowledge of people like the Dogon people, who have like, it makes no sense how they could have possibly gotten this information. All of this to me leads to the fact that aliens have been visiting for thousands of years. We know from the first episode, like from the government officials have said that, but it just kind of makes sense. So that was, historical evidence that aliens exist. After watching all the episodes, I'm curious if I was able to convince you that aliens exist after all. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I make a lot of these conspiracy theory documentaries, and I have a lot more coming out. Check out my celebrity cloning conspiracy theory video, and I also have a reptilian humanoid conspiracy theory video. And I'll have a lot more coming out soon, so make sure you subscribe. This was my series on aliens. I hope I convinced you that they're real. If not, I want to convince you of a lot of conspiracy theories, so subscribe. And I'm out.